it'll keep up with cars easy. Look at this! What? The motors just scream. They just give more and more and more. Oh my God. What? 50 miles an hour. 51! What? What's up, guys? It's Alex from Maximum Charge. Welcome back to the channel, and if you are new here, welcome. Today it is a beautiful day for two reasons. Number one, New England is thawing out. We have one of our first 60+ degree weather days. The sun is out. And number two, we're on what probably will be one of the most popular e-bikes of 2025. A highly anticipated e-bike from Ecells, the MONSTAR. This bike literally has almost everything. So not only is this a 50 mile an hour, dual motor, dual battery, high torque monster, you also get a Shimano Q's 11-speed wide range cassette going all the way from 11 teeth up to 50 teeth, a torque sensor, quad piston, name brand Tektro Dorado brakes, almost 5-inch wide fat tires, rear turn signals, a big headlight, and on top of all of that, the electronic components of this bike, like the dual potted KT controllers and the 1500 watt Hentak motors, are tried and true. Over the past year or two, parts on this bike have been used in previous Ecells bikes, and they've been proven to be very reliable. Now we're seeing more and more high-powered dual motor e-bikes, and in a world with other bikes that have tiny little overheating controllers, and then you'll see videos of tiny little battery balancers burning up. Right next to the battery, Ecells is here maintaining the gold standard of quality and reliability, so that once you do get your bike, you can continue to enjoy it for thousands of miles instead of having to continuously contact warranty on your third long distance walk home, pushing your dead e-bike because something else on your bike melted and now needs to be replaced. It's actually pretty simple and easy to just push out more power into a bike and hope that none of the lower quality components burn out. Ecells, on the other hand, has been in the dual motor game for almost half a decade. They've had the time to perfect their bikes, not just in power output, but in all other aspects of the bike. This is actually my fourth Ecells bike I'm reviewing, and to this day, I still have all the other ones. They are all working perfectly with zero reliability issues. We'll be doing some comparison videos of those bikes in the future. But today we're going to be bringing this MONSTAR through all the tests. The 0 to 20 test, the hill climb test, the top speed test, all the tests. We'll also take a look at the specs and components of this bike, along with checking out some of the display settings where you can adjust the bike to fit your specific riding style. Currently, this bike is listed for $3,600, but if you use my code MAX100, you can save yourself $100, and your cost ends up being just about $3,500 out the door. No taxes, no hidden shipping fees. If you guys like my reviews, using that link will help support the channel at no extra cost to you. And thank you so much to the guys who are using my links. I really appreciate it. All right, that's enough talking. Let's jump right into the 0 to 20 test, where we're gonna actually test out 3 different settings on this bike to show you that even though this bike is powerful enough to do insane front wheel burnouts, you don't have to ride your bike like that. In fact, you can adjust the settings so you still get the full 50 mile an hour top speed, and you can have a softer start to where that front wheel barely will spin out, if at all. So right now we have the C5 setting set to 10, full power, full starting strength, dual motors, bringing the pedal assist all the way up to 5. And I did test to see if this speedometer is accurate during my unboxing and initial impressions video. You guys can check out that video somewhere on the top right hand corner, and I'll leave it in the description below as well. Here we go, 0 to 20, full power, 3, 2, 1, go. I didn't even see 20, it went so quick. I looked up for a second and we were at like 22. So as you guys saw, that was a pretty significant front wheel burnout. Looks awesome on camera, and it is pretty awesome the first couple times, but eventually it does kind of get annoying. So thankfully Ecells has given you guys a way to program this bike So it doesn't do that. Show you guys how to do that now. So let's go into the advanced settings. You hold the up and down arrows. We'll bring the C5 down to 2. And that is where you'll still get your full top speed, but it will soften the starting strength up a lot, so you're not gonna get that front wheel burnout. And let's see what we get for a 0 to 20. 3, 2, 1, go. Look at that. Only a little bit of burnout, only once we got going. I wasn't even, oh my goodness, I wasn't even looking and we're already at 25. Jeez, this thing is quick. So let's say even that is too fast for you. We can bring that C5 setting all the way down to 0 and it will give us an even softer start. All right, so now we're at 0. Let's see how it goes. 3, 2, 1, go. No wheel burnout whatsoever. And we're still instantly at 20. This thing is insane. So for today's ride, we're gonna be keeping that setting at 2 because it seems to give me the most power while keeping the front wheel spin to a very low and very manageable amount. And by the way, levels 3 to 9, they will still give you a softer starting strength based on how low the level is. So level 3 is the softest. Level 9, you'll get closer to that level 10 full acceleration, but it will also reduce your total power output of this bike. So level 3, you're only gonna be pushing maybe 1500 watts total, which is both good and bad. It's good if you don't need all the power. Let's say you get this bike and you're brand new to e-biking and you're not sure if you can handle that much power, or maybe you really just enjoy pedaling, you want to get as much exercise as possible. You don't want to use the batteries up all that quick. You want to get some leg exercise. Those settings could be useful for you, but if you want full top speed, levels 0, 1, 2, or 10 are going to be your options. For some of the tests, I am going to keep that C5 setting at 10, but for most of the ride, we'll keep it at level 2. Let's move on to our long hill climb test. And speaking of long, this is going to be a very long video, as you guys could probably already tell, because there is so much to talk about with this bike. So feel free to skip around in this video. All right, dual motor, pedal assist 5. Throttle only, long hill climb test. Normally I shout out, subscribe to the channel and follow me on social media during this hill climb test, but I don't think I'm even gonna have time to say that. This thing is so fast. Here we go, throttle only, hill climb test. 3, 2, 1, boom. Yeah, burn out, baby. All right, we're at 20 already. It's skipping numbers on the speedometer. It's going so fast. Look at this, 30 miles an hour. Holy crap. All right, we're gonna get to like 35 miles an hour. Boom! That is insanity. Holy. Speaking of insanity, let's see what the top speed is of the free spinning wheel. We're gonna switch it to rear motor only. See where we go. Okay. Almost 60 miles an hour. This bike is an animal. So let's say I did go down a hill and I were to accelerate. You would get to speed so quick. Look at this, 40 miles an hour. We're gonna hit 45 just down that one part. Oh my goodness. Sorry if I'm yelling into the microphone. I can't even help it. This thing is nuts. So another way you can tame this bike is by quickly switching to rear motor. Right now I'm pedaling nice and slow. The torque sensor is adjusting my power output. I'm only using about 200, 300 watts right now, just moseying on along in this sidewalk. So on top of adjusting the C5 setting, you can easily just switch to rear motor and tame this bike down with a flip of a switch. I like that so much more than some other bikes where you have to hold down a button and cycle through rear motor, front motor, dual motor. This is so much nicer. You just flick the switch and you're good to go. Testing out this front fork, smash right into the curb. What curb? This fork has a ton of travel. The suspension on this bike is amazing. Whoop, my mirror scraping on this wall a bit. Handlebar width test. These handlebars are a tiny bit wider than normal. That's gonna give you some extra control while you're off-roading, on the trails, whatever you're using this bike for. And if you have a bar end mirror like me, make sure you flip it up if you're going into a tight space. Turning radius on this bike, not the greatest. The dual crown fork plus the thicker part of the frame in the front is going to interfere with the turning radius. It will not interfere whatsoever while you're actually riding this bike. But if you're at home maneuvering this bike into its parking spot, or if you're like me, you have to bring your bike inside, maneuvering this bike will not be the easiest thing. Let's continue on. All right, so this part is gonna be interesting because I have the C5 level set to 10, and when you're turning, you typically do not wanna get all full power in your front motor because guess what? It's gonna lose traction and you're gonna wipe out. So we're gonna have to be very careful testing this bike, going up the steep hill climb test while we're making this corner. Here we go. Dual motor, pedal assist level 5, C5 setting to 10, and here we go. Started off slow. Oh, and we're off. Get some speed, and oh my God. What is this bike? What? What the? You got to see that? Was there even a hill back there? I'm pretty sure that obliterated all the records on the steep hill climb test. I don't know if anything's gonna beat this bike for a while. Going back down the hill, let's go ahead and test out the brakes in this bike. We're gonna do our 0 to 20 brake test. See if I can get as close to 20 miles an hour as possible, and then brake really hard. Ready, brake. All right. So, I know these brakes worked very well, and I'll tell you how I know that. I felt the back lift up a bit, and that's why we ended up slightly sideways. What that means is that the front fork compressed, a lot of weight was shifted forwards, and the front brake did most of the work to stop this bike. And as you could tell, for a big heavy e-bike like this thing stopped pretty easily. I've had much lighter bikes that are at least 20 pounds lighter, go all the way out here for their stopping distance. And as you could tell, we're not even close to that spot. So the brake setup on this bike is fantastic. 203 millimeter rotors with brand name Tektro quad piston calipers. That's gonna stop almost anything. Man, this is such a nice day. I think I'm actually gonna take this jacket off. It is getting warm. So yes, we are riding on the sidewalk. Even though this bike could handle this road right here, I can easily stay on the sidewalk and be guilt-free. Why? Because this is a bicycle with pedals. It has normal bicycle geometry. We've got pedals, and if it is legal in your state to have a bike like this on the sidewalk, you are gonna be just fine. By the way, I did go home also and tighten up some of the front fender bolts because I think I didn't tighten them down completely when putting this bike together, and I heard some rattling from the front fender earlier in the video, so we fixed that right up. There is no rattling, and we are currently almost at the steep Grassy hill climb area. Before we get to that test and the top speed test, let's quickly go back into the MCHQ and talk about the specs and components of this bike. See you guys in a bit.
All right, guys, let's dive right in. Let's take a look at the specs and components of this MONSTAR from Ecells. We're gonna start at the top. Somebody wants some attention? Laura, what do you think of the MONSTAR? What is this? Do you like it? Sit. Paw. Other paw. Okay, I'll give you a treat. At the top, we have locking, ergonomic shaped faux leather handlebar grips. I do appreciate that these are locking. They're not gonna have any kind of twisting or movement as you're riding your bike. Next to that, we have a switch for your turn signals. So you get rear turn signals and a button for your horn. That is loud. Here's your motor selector switch. So 1 is front motor, 2 is both motors, and 3 is rear motor. And then you have the 3-button control panel for the display. And here's what the display looks like. We're gonna get to that in a moment. Next to that, we have the Shimano Q's trigger shifter. This is a newer system from Shimano that Ecells has put on the MONSTAR, and this comes with 11 speeds. That is outstanding. And then you do get the half-twist throttle on the right. Tektro Dorado brake levers. We'll talk about these brakes in a moment. Something that I do like about the handlebar grips for this bike is that it comes with end caps, which means I can mount my own bar end mirror. Link to this in the description below. And this, by the way, is my Gub phone mount. I use this for all my bikes. Link to this in the description below as well. Cable management does look pretty good. I did do a little bit of my own cable management to make it look even better. And I'd say for a bike with as many features and as many electronics as this, I'd say it looks pretty good. For a stem, you have this adjustable Pro Max stem, so you can give yourself either more of a forward-leaning or upright riding position. For lights, you get a huge front light. This thing is massive and it is insanely bright. It's going to light up wherever you're going. This light did come in very handy for my early morning work commute. Link to that video in the description below. I was riding early morning with this bike and there wasn't that much light, and this headlight came in very handy. And by the way, when I did get this bike, this light internally was slightly slanted. What I did was I pushed into this and I turned it little by little and I straightened it out. That's a very simple fix. And here's what the rear light looks like. Tiny portion of the rear light does light up when you hit the brake levers. And here's what those turn signals look like. Here's the left and here's the right turn signal. And this bike does only come with the rear turn signals. Here's what the brake light looks like when the light is off. You do also get a bonus light on the battery itself. This battery light does use its own tiny little battery, so to turn it on, press the button, and there you go. Now you got 2 rear lights. This is a great safety feature and it makes you more visible on the roads. Let's talk about the fork this bike comes with. Look at this beast of a fork. These are inverted forks. These are branded DH36, and these are air forks. You can put more air in on the left side, and here's the lockout adjustment on the right side. And underneath that side, you get the rebound adjustment. And this fork is advertised to have 120 millimeters of travel. This fork is going to give you a lot of travel and it's going to make for a very smooth ride. It makes the bike feel extra durable and it gives you a sense of security when you are traveling over large obstacles. This fork is going to do a fantastic job. Because of the design of this fork, you get bumpers here that make it so you don't damage and turn the fork into the frame. However, that does somewhat limit the turning radius of this bike. It's not an issue while you're riding the bike at all. But this bike can be somewhat cumbersome when you're maneuvering it in your garage or inside your house. Especially considering this thing is a beast of an e-bike. It is massive. For fenders, you get a front metal fender and a metal fender in the rear as well. This fender is mounted with 4 of these metal rods, 2 on one side, 2 on the other. And since it's mounted at the bottom, the wheel and the fender all move together. When you do hit a bump, the fender will move up as well. There's a tiny little bit of movement. Sometimes the fender does tap on the fork. Remedies for that: you can bend these a tiny bit off to the right hand side, giving you some more clearance. You can put one of those like little rubber bumpers on this side of the fender too to eliminate any kind of noise. We'll go ahead and just paste this little thing right on the fender and that should fix it. Here's before and here's after. Nice. I've seen other solutions where one person zip tied this part of the fender mount to the motor cable itself. I don't know if I would recommend that, considering this entire wheel and fender do move up and down and it might cause some pulling on the motor cable. So I think this solution is going to be a little bit better. And as you could tell, there is no sound whatsoever. Let's talk some more about this fork. So this fork features multiple ways to keep this high-powered motor in the dropouts. The first way is this bolt down here pinches the axle. Secondly, the mounts that the fender mounts into, this bracket, acts like a torque arm. So this bracket itself is bolted into the fork and it's slotted in such a way that once it's bolted down, it too also helps keep the axle from twisting and falling out. And obviously the third way is going to be the bolt right here, which when you tighten down real good, it's gonna make sure nothing goes anywhere. But these bolts do loosen up over time. It's always good to check these bolts in the front and the back periodically because they do loosen over time. However, if you happen to forget, this fork will have you covered because there's multiple redundancies built in so that this axle won't go anywhere. It's not gonna twist and it's not gonna fall out. And that's hugely important considering the amount of power that's being put into this motor. During assembly, don't forget to put the rubber boots on. Let's talk about the wheels. These are Champion branded alloy wheels and these are huge. These are wide and they have these cutouts inside. And these are double-walled aluminum wheels, which is a feature that Ecells puts on many of their bikes. I think all of their bikes, if I'm not mistaken. So this wheel is going to be extra strong, which is important, again, considering how powerful this bike is and how much it weighs. Very happy that this bike has strong wheels. And as far as I know, these cutouts are good for a few things, besides saving a little bit of weight. When you do hit a big bump, the inner tube compresses and it will push into these holes a tiny bit, giving you a softer ride. Very interesting wheel design. You also get a little reflector in the wheel, in the front and in the back. This bike comes with gigantic 4.8 inch wide tires. As you can tell, these are already dirty because I have about 75 to 100 miles already on this bike. These are CST roly-poly 26 by 4.8 inch wide tires. And because there's so much surface area touching the roads, there is going to be some noise when you're riding this bike down the road. However, they're also going to give you a ton of grip. Look at these treads. These are like paddles almost. And I've taken this bike through dirt and snow and it performed amazing. For brakes on this bike, you get Tektro Dorado quad piston calipers with 203mm rotors, and these work phenomenally. Same exact setup in the back, quad piston calipers with the 203mm rotor. Let's talk about this frame. So there's a lot to talk about. We're gonna start at the top. The frame does come with mounts for a front basket, and I know there are adapters that you can buy that will extend past the front fork, and if this headlight were not there, you would be able to mount a front basket on this bike. My guess is that you can move the headlight down or up, and that'll give you clearance for a front basket. And the cables are run internally through the frame. This bike does come in a variety of colors, but currently mine is the flat black color with the black wheels, so totally blacked out. The main 25 amp hour 60 volt battery is mounted internally in the frame. That's going to give it plenty of protection. The charge port for the main battery is here. However, you can also charge the front and the rear battery together using this single port right over here. I've only ever seen this feature on Ecells bikes. For a charger, you get a passively cooled 5 amp charger. And this charger does feel heavy, almost as if it's potted. That's also going to give it great heat dissipation, so things stay nice and cool. You get this cool all-wheel drive logo on the frame. Nice. Up top, you get a place to mount your water bottle or other accessories. And back here, the frame is branded Ecells, so you know it's not some generic frame. This is a frame specific to Ecells. And if you notice down here, another cool feature that I've only seen on Ecells bikes is what they call the non-drop dropout. So the axle is squeezed by tightening this bolt, and in addition to the main axle nut, makes this motor insanely secure. It's gonna make sure nothing is twisting, nothing falls out. It's always good to periodically check these nuts. However, we all forget things and sometimes they loosen up. So this safety feature is critical if that does happen. That's gonna make it so nothing ever goes wrong and this motor is gonna stay put. And by the way, Ecells is the only company I know to use a reflective material for their logo. So this does light up at night. When there is a light shined on the logo, it will reflect, helping other people and cars to see you at night. This is a 17-inch frame, and currently this is the lowest position of the seat. The minimum seat height looks to be about 34 to 35 inches, and it looks like you can bring that down lower. If you cut the end of the seat post, you could bring that down by 2 inches. Bringing the minimum seat height down to about 33 inches, believe it or not, that's gonna make this bike an okay option for a smaller rider. And this is a moderately squishy seat with a moderate width. I know a lot of you guys end up switching these seats out anyway. The pivot arms on this bike are massive. Look at how thick these arms are, and they are cross-braced everywhere to give you as much lateral rigidity as possible. The shock in this bike is a D&M A08RC. I've seen this shock on a lot of different bikes. It's a great shock, and it is adjustable. So this is the open position, middle position, and now the shock is locked. Let's keep it in the open position. And you can also adjust the rebound right here. And here's a place where you can fill it with more air. Ecells makes some of the best rear racks in the market. Notice all the cross bracing on the sides. This bike did come with a nice little bungee for the rear rack. The rear rack is limited to 25 kilos or about 55 pounds. And I do appreciate that the rear rack is secured to the rear fender in multiple places, so this rear fender is not going anywhere. With this bike, you get 4 keys. Here are 2 of them, one for the front and one for the rear battery. Let's go ahead and take a look at the front battery. So to unlock it, put the key in, twist, then there's a latch that you push, and that'll unlock the battery. And you can easily take it out. The battery itself has a battery indicator, and here's the label on the battery. It's a little bit scratched up right there because I've been taking it out, putting it back in. As you can see, it is labeled 60 volt, 25 amp hours, 1500 watt hour battery. This is a beast of a battery. Let's put this battery back in. So switch it to the open position, put the bottom in, turn the key, push it back in, and lock it in, and it's gonna click in place. Now this battery is a 15 amp hour 60 volt battery. Let's go ahead and take this one out. Use the other key, throw that in, turn, and then you pull the battery out from underneath. Here's the label on the other battery. 60 volt, 15 amp hours, 900 watt hours. The battery also comes with the charge indicator, and here's its own separate charge port. And make sure this battery is in the on position. You can't turn it off. Put it in the on position. Because this bike is so powerful, it is best run using both batteries together. Let's put this battery back in. Push that in, turn the key, and it's not going anywhere. And both the front and the rear battery have high quality Samsung 50S cells. For controllers, you get two 40 amp potted KT controllers, and these are exposed. That's gonna make it so that they can easily dissipate heat. And because they're potted, it's gonna further facilitate heat dissipation and make them both waterproof. And something very important people always overlook about batteries is that the more batteries you have in parallel, which this bike does have a lot, right? We've got 40 total amp hours of battery. That's insane. And the better cells you have, which Samsung 50S cells are pretty good, that's going to make it so that when you do hit the accelerator, your voltage sag will be minimal. Some bikes can have a lot of voltage sag, and when you multiply that with the controller amperage, that means you're not getting the advertised power. So a fully charged 60 volt battery is about 67.5 volts. You multiply that by the 80 amps of current that these controllers give you, and that'll give you a total theoretical output of 5,400 watts. And because these cells don't sag as much, you're gonna be pretty close to that theoretical range. However, if this bike were to have cheaper cells, it would definitely peak closer into the 5,000 watt range because the voltage sag would be much lower and you wouldn't be getting as much power as you think you're getting. Let's talk about the power systems of this bike. So, obviously this is a dual motor bike. In the back you have a 1500 watt rated Hentac steel reinforced geared hub motor, and you get the same exact motor in the front. And these are special motors. They are what's called a lower T-rated motor. What that's gonna give you is a faster RPM at a specific voltage. So if this bike had motors that you would normally see on a bike like this bike would top out somewhere between the 40 to 45 mile an hour range. However, because of the special motors and the lower T windings, this bike can reach speeds of 50 miles an hour, and some people have gotten this bike to go even faster. And on the website, it says each motor is capable of 147 Newton meters of torque, which is almost 300 Newton meters of torque on this e-bike. That's insane. Moving on back, look at the transmission of this thing. This is amazing. So not only does this bike give you a ton of power, you also get a ton of gears for pedalability. We go all the way from an 11 tooth sprocket to a 50 tooth sprocket, so you get 11 gears and a ton of range between those gears. And not only that, this bike comes with a new Shimano Q's derailleur. And by the way, this derailleur has a form of a clutch. If you notice, I'm pushing down. There is not a lot of movement. That derailleur is in its locked position. What that's gonna help with is minimizing chain slap, making sure things stay nice and quiet, and making sure the chain stays in good alignment on the chain ring and this cassette in the back. So if you check it out, there's a switch right there. Now it's in the unlocked position. Now I can move the derailleur. This bike does come with a derailleur guard, not mounted on the bike, it's in the second box. It's very easy to mount, you just mount it with these two bolts. This bike comes with a massive 56 tooth chainring, which means ghost pedaling will not be an issue at all. I've been riding this bike for a while, and I've always had plenty of pedal feel, even well into the 40 mile an hour range. And the chainring does come with two guards, one on each side, to make sure this chain stays put. And this is also a torque sensor. So if you're someone who wants to get exercise from this bike, It's definitely possible. So I love that this bike is set up for pedaling as well as lots of power with the motors. And for pedals, we get basic metal pedals. In the box, you also get an Ecells repair kit, good for roadside repairs and other maintenance. Comes with a pump, multi-tool, and a tube patch kit. And you can clip this bag right onto the bike using these clips. This bike also comes with a free battery-powered smart pump. And with every Ecells bike, you do get a free helmet.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the review ride for the Ecells MONSTAR. Let's jump right in. We're gonna go ahead and do this steep, grassy hill climb. This is a very steep hill, lots of rolling resistance with the bumps and the grass. But right now I'm just cruising right over this bumpy grass. Suspension is working nice. It's a little bit windy right now. Perfect for flying a kite. Look at that. All right, here we are. Let's get to the steepest part. Show you guys how this bike does. Let me get my drone set up. All right, let's see. Hopefully this drone can handle the wind in the field. Boom. All right, guys. So we're on C5 setting of 10, dual motor. Here we go. We're gonna have to lean forwards a bit. 3, 2, 1, boom. Wheel spin. Oh my God. What? What? Did you guys see that? This thing is ridiculous. Let's do that again. Let's say you want a soft start on your motor, and let's switch it to C5 setting of 2, because that was 10. Okay, C5 of 2. Here we go, throttle only, 3, 2, 1, boom. Soft start. And we're still crushing this hill. Wow. Man, this thing is insane. I want to do that again. Let's start from an even closer spot. Here we go. Throttle only, 3, 2, 1, boom. Some wheel spin, and we're just cooking. Oh my goodness. Wow. What is this thing? What is this bike? Ecells, what have you created? See if we can lose the drone. Whoa! Going 30 miles an hour in the grass? Maybe we should slow down. We lost the drone, poor thing. I'm a terrible drone parent. I'm gonna call DCF on myself. Sorry, buddy. Just abandoning you like that. Poor guy. Or wouldn't that be DDF? Department of Drones and Families? Moving on. Let's fly up this hill. Jesus Christ. 15 miles an hour going up that hill. Unreal. This is a monster. Truly a monster. Well, let's head down to our top speed testing site. Right now I have these tires inflated a bit higher than I normally would, just because I want low rolling resistance for the top speed test. Typically I would have them at like 20 PSI. Right now they're closer to 30 in that grassy field. And I did take the tires through the snow and they did amazing there as well. Plenty of grip. And with the dual motors, you feel like you can just do anything with this bike. Look how quick we catch up to cars. Unbelievable. Wow. So they're going like 40 miles an hour. So are we. I did actually use this bike for a work commute. I went early morning, 15 miles one way, 15 miles the other way, and then I did another couple of miles with my buddy. We did a little trail ride and got some pizza. And this bike did great. It'll keep up with cars easy. 40 miles an hour plus, no problem. Look at this. What? The motors just scream. They just give more and more and more. Normally a bike will top out at a certain speed and that's it. Like even if it goes 40, you don't expect the motors to just keep getting louder and faster and louder and faster. These motors are special. They're a low T motor, so the windings are different, making both motors able to go faster, giving this bike its insane top speed. So we'll go ahead and set the C5 setting back to 10. And yes, I am doing this while riding. Don't be jealous. That's what happens when you're a professional e-bike reviewer. Bruh. Boom. All right, we're back to 10. We're gonna go down this road and back and test out the top speed. We'll pedal up to speed, see where the throttle takes us. Here we go. Pedal, 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 pedaling hard. Look at this cadence. I'm at 40 right now. Cadence is great. All right, we're tucked down. Catching up to this car, 46, 47. Wow, look at this. This BMW is like, what is happening? All right, we touched 47 miles an hour one way. And then look at this. I can switch to rear motor, gear it down, and turn this thing into a nice, peaceful, and docile little animal. And nobody will know that this bike is a monster. Look at this. Nice and quiet, rear motor, pedal assist 1 torque sensor, pedaling just like a normal bike. No, officer, my bicycle cannot do 50 miles an hour. Can't you see the class 2 sticker? All right, let's do the same thing back. Dual motor, pedal assist 5. All right, gonna give it a little bit more runway this time and try and make it so that there won't be any cars in front of us. This Subaru does not look fast whatsoever, but we're gonna have to wait for these cars. All right, looks like we're good. 3, 2, 1, go. Burnout, yeah. All right, pedal hard, pedal, pedal, pedal. 30, 40, 45. We're gonna tuck down. 49, holy crap. Oh my God, 50. Woo, 50 miles an hour. Holy crap. 51, what is this bike? I gotta pull over. This bike doesn't make sense in the best possible way. Bicycle with pedals going 50 miles an hour, climbing whatever hills you want. And then I could just turn off onto a little trail, nice and quiet. Don't mind me, officer. Just my class 2 e-bike hanging out on a rail trail. This bike is insane in the best way possible. By the way, this review ride is unlike other review rides I've done. Typically, I'll get a bike, I'll put it together, and I'll just jump right onto the review ride and test it out. I have currently 89 miles on this bike. I wanted to get a really good feel for it before I made this review, and the more I ride it, the more I like it. If you've been holding out on getting an e-bike because you're not sure what you'll like, just get this. You can do whatever you want in this. You can go on the rail trail. Look at me pedaling right now, torque sensor, nice cushy suspension in the grass, just chilling at 7 miles an hour, or I can go 50 miles an hour on the road. What is this bike? Just buy this and you'll be set. If you guys just want one bike, just get this. And because it's from Ecells, you know the parts are gonna be quality, reliable. It'll probably last you for thousands of miles. This bike's amazing. Let's continue on with a little mini off-road test. Typically we come down here and ride on the side of the road. Pretty rough terrain on that side. We're gonna be pedaling, dual motor, pedal assist 1, see how it goes. I wanna enjoy the torque sensor that's on this bike. And I do have a small secret to share with you guys regarding this torque sensor. I'll tell you about that in a little bit. So here we go. On the side of the road, 15 miles an hour, pedaling, easy peasy. Rear shock is working amazing. Front fork is doing great. Dual motor power. And thank goodness the snow is gone, except for this disgusting pile of ice right here. Just watch out for that. You can switch up to a different gear, go a little bit faster. One of my 11 speeds on this bike. The gearing range on this bike is epic. It's one of the best I've ever seen on any e-bike. 11 to 50 teeth. You can have some insane torque just from the gearing alone with this bike. But you can also pedal well into the 40 mile an hour range because the front chainring is massive and the rear smallest sprocket is only 11 teeth. So really good gear ratio for pretty much whatever you want. Steep hill climbing, slow speed, or being a maniac, going 40 plus miles on the road, pedaling and getting exercise because this is a torque sensor. So I'm just chilling, cruising right now, relaxing. I can do that all day. And let's actually let a little air out of the tires because, like I said earlier, they were pumped up a tiny bit on the higher side because I wanted to hit that top speed of apparently 51 miles an hour. During my initial review ride, I went 47, and I told you guys it would go faster in warm weather, and look at that. 51 miles an hour. It's crazy. Let's take some air out of these tires. I don't know what PSI that is. We're just gonna YOLO it. All right, and I had my C5 setting to 10, so let's set that back down. We're gonna keep it on 2 for the rest of today's ride because that's the most comfortable setting, and you still get great acceleration with barely any wheel spin. There it is. Look at that. So the ride is a little bit softer now. Those big tires are doing wonders. We're just floating over everything. And by the way, some of you guys might be thinking, well, those are some gigantic tires. They are totally unnecessary. And you would be right if this were a rear hub motorbike only. However, because you got that front motor and not nearly as much weight on the front wheel as you do the back wheel, you're gonna need extra surface area of the tire touching the ground to maintain traction. And thankfully, this thing has almost 5-inch wide tires, so you can maintain much better traction versus if that tire were narrower. So if you're looking at this bike for off-road purposes like hunting, just get it. It's got everything. It's got the gears, it's got the power, it's got the tires, it's got the suspension. Look at this. We're just hanging out, we're just chilling. This bike is like a scene from James Bond where he just finishes like beating up some bad guys and then casually just transitions to something cool, calm, and collected, like nothing ever happened. That's what you could do with this thing. So let me tell you guys the little secret about the torque sensor. So in your settings, C14 goes from 1, 2, or 3. And what that does is it adjusts how intense or how much power you're getting from the torque sensor. So it's kind of like a power multiplier. Right now I had it set to 3. But if you bring it down to 1, it'll give you less power based on how much you're pushing into the pedals, which some of you guys, again, might like, because if you're thinking about getting your first bike for exercise, this is it right here. You can turn the power down of the torque sensor and it'll force you to exercise with this bike more so than before. So bring it all the way down to pedal assist 1, rear motor, the C5 setting is set to 3, C14 set to 1, and this thing will be tamed like a regular old e-bike. You're gonna be just fine. And what I love about this as a first e-bike is that you can grow into the power. There's so much adjustability. You can make this thing a MONSTAR if you want, or you can make it a nice tamed little Bambi in case this is your first bike and you don't want to go 50 miles an hour. You don't want the 5,400 watts of power. Oh, and by the way, when you do have this bike turned down, either by not using as much power or by tuning the settings, you're gonna get insane range with this bike. And we will be doing a range test with this bike, so stay tuned for lots more videos on the Ecells MONSTAR, because this bike has 40 amp hours of 60 volt battery, which is 2,400 watts. That's insane for an electric bicycle. So if you're gonna do something like this, just pedal around at 20 something miles an hour with your torque sensor, you're gonna get insane range. Right now we're using about 400 watts of power, and if that's the most you're gonna be using when you get this bike, let's say you don't wanna use all that power, your range is gonna be crazy. Check it out, guys. Perks of having an e-bike. Then we just keep up with traffic. Wow. I still can't believe this thing did 51 miles an hour. That's insane. Going uphill, hitting 40 miles an hour, and accelerating. Turn signal. Tell people we're turning left. And we're off. Nice, soft, easy start around the corner with that C5 setting adjusted. Makes this bike so much more manageable, but you still get that full power. Look at this. Holy! School bus. I don't have a license plate, so if I passed, they won't know who I am. However, I'm probably the only MONSTAR owner in my town, so maybe they will know who I am, especially if I document it on a YouTube channel. So we're gonna follow the laws and be respectful. Let's do another little test. We're gonna go up this semi-steep but long hill, throttle only. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to slow down. This bike eats hills for breakfast. We're gonna visit my buddy, the judgmental snowman. Still here, huh? Check it out, guys. This house has St. Patrick's Day decorations and Christmas decorations. Maybe you'll just be out here all year. See? Only a tiny, tiny bit of wheel spin, and I can turn that down even more. I can set the C5 down to 0, still get full top speed, and have it give me an even more controlled start. So I know we went through some of the display settings. If you guys saw my display, I only have 1 battery bar. I did that on purpose. I set the L6 setting to make it only show 1 battery bar, because I'm always gonna use both batteries. And it is recommended by Ecells to always use both batteries when you're riding this bike to make sure you're gonna get full power with both of those batteries working together. So FYI, that's why I only have 1 battery bar. So see that, we're pedaling nice and slow, and then I can open her up and be a maniac. Brakes work well, thank God for those Tektro Dorado brakes. So that's it for today's video review, guys. Let me know what you think of the Ecells MONSTAR. This bike, I think, is a monster. But at the same time, you could tame it down to be a gentle little kitten. Go 50 miles an hour down the road and just veer off onto the rail trail and putt around 10 miles an hour. Nobody knows the MONSTAR that you are riding. Good suspension travel in the front and in the rear, and the suspension is fully adjustable. Nice upright riding position with the adjustable stem, ergonomic grips, 11 speeds, paired with a torque sensor for all of your pedaling needs. In case you want to pedal over 40 miles an hour or crawl up a hill, barely using any power. You get turn signals, you get a horn, giant front headlight, 2,400 watt hours of battery capacity, dual batteries, 60 volts, 40 amp hours. You get a big rear rack. I'm telling you guys, this bike has everything. Comment below, let me know what you think about this bike. Currently, this bike is listed for $3,600. However, these bikes sometimes go on sale, so check the link in the description below to get the most up-to-date price. And if you do want to save $100, use my code MAX100 to make sure you can get the best possible price. And if you guys do love these reviews, using my link and my code will help support the channel at no extra cost to you. Thank you so much to the guys that are using my links and codes. I really do appreciate it a lot. You guys can follow me on social media. I am on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I have 2 Facebook groups, E-Bike Addicts and High Speed E-Bikes, 40 miles an hour and up, where you guys will be seeing this bike posted all over the place. And stay tuned for future videos with this bike. We're gonna be doing a range test. We're gonna be doing an off-roading test. We're gonna make a lot of content with this bike. This is definitely gonna be one of the best e-bikes of 2025. This bike is insane. That's it for today, folks. Until next time.